Friends, welcome to another episode of Auto Afflicted. I'm your host, Ali Goulet, and today we're with the Audi C5 and we're putting in a new drive axle. So I'm going to show you all how easy it is to install on an Audi C5. It's a very similar procedure to most Audis, but super easy on this one. So let's get into it. Right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is get all our tools together. I've put the tools in the description, so check that out. Just off the top of my head, I know that you need a breaker bar and a 27 millimeter, at least for my A6, 27 millimeter for the nut in here. We're going to actually take the whole wheel off. We're going to pop out the center cap. We're going to pull the axle nut. Then we're going to go in and start working on the axle. The axle uses a 12 point, I think it's 12 point, size 12 for some of the connecting bolts. And anyway, we're gonna dive right into it. But before we dive into it, we need to get into the right gear. So, all right, enough fooling around. Let's tear into this thing. Not gonna jack it up just yet because I wanna break the lug nuts loose, and I like to do that by hand. I like to use the power tools for speed mostly, and use hand tools for touch. I'm going to use something gentle to knock the center cap out. My center cap is out. And the main purpose for this is that it's just easy to break the axle bolt loose here using the weight of the car and the stationary resistance of the tire, of course. So I don't like to use power tools to start my lug nuts, just because it's easy to strip them. My impact wrench is on a pretty low setting, so I can just go right in with it. I'm not worried. And now I'll take her back down. And then got my 27 socket. Make sure I'm on there. And this thing definitely requires leverage. Oh, on the good side too. Try to be careful. All right, now we'll just break it loose gently. There we go. Didn't require too much, but just a little leverage there. Now we can take it back up. Driver's side first. All right, so we got this level now, and we got both sides jacked up. Jack stands are in place. Take this wheel back off. So I actually did this job a couple days ago. on the other side. When I did this job on the other side, I gained a bit of experience. I don't know if it's just because this one's a manual, but I was able to take the other side axle out without removing the caliper or without having to remove either of the upper tie arms for the suspension or any of the lowers. So I was able to sneak it out without having to do any of that, which is pretty amazing. Normally you're gonna have to disassemble something there. And what I've been told is quite often it's these ball joints up here that are always rusted in place. And so the recommend is actually to remove the rear ball joint. You would need a spreader for that. If you have to remove something, you remove that one. That'll allow you to rotate it kind of up and out of the way. But instead what we're gonna do is we're going to just rotate the axle all the way, or rotate the steering rather, all the way to lock position away from where we're working, and that's gonna give us enough space, I believe. So we are working in my new shop, but unfortunately we don't have the lift set up yet, so it is what it is. It's not so bad to do this job down on the ground here. So this axle kit I got, you'll see when we pull out the current axle. I think the current axle is aftermarket, and it's actually pretty skinny. This one is really nice and thick. It's a PDL professional driveline axle. It does come with extra grease, of course, and all of the new mounting hardware, all the new bolts, except their hex head, which is whatever. I got the tools for it. All right, so now we're gonna go get underneath. All right, so down here you can see this is M12 12 point, and I've just put a few extensions on it so I can get it over to this side. I found this is the easiest position, at least if you're working on the ground like I am. I'm just gonna keep rotating the axle and removing the bolt here in this position. And while I'm at it, because when you try to tighten or loosen, you'll see the axle wants to rotate. So I got my friend screwdriver over here just stuck into the vent of the brake, holding this axle from rotating. And so now I'm just gonna break all of these loose, and then I'll probably come back with the power tool and spin them out real quick. Now that I've loosened these off, I'm gonna go ahead and take them out with the gun. All right, now that we've got the axle bolt out and we've got the connecting bolts out of the transmission over here, now we're able and ready to turn the wheel complete opposite lock. Right, so since we're working on the right side, we're turning it full left lock, and that gives us space over here to work. So when you remove the key, it holds, with the steering lock, holds this in position so you don't have to mess with it. Right, so the best technique, you can see this thing has been spitting all kinds of crap on my brakes, which sucks. But the best technique is you get it at a full angle here at the wheel, and then over here by the trans, we will pull this away. See, that comes away pretty easy, and then that gives you some space. Bring it here a little bit, and that's gonna give you some space over here to then wiggle this axle out up here. This kind of gets to be there we go. Actually, I thought I was gonna have to free my hand, but and so there you go. Comes out fairly easily. And you know, this thing was just throwing grease everywhere. God, this is a greasy job. You will get a lot of grease. But like I was saying about the axles earlier, you can see this one, the new one, is significantly thicker. And so That's our new friend right there. Time to install. All right, so before we go back in, we get everything prepped up. We got to put some grease all on this side of the axle. And we're going to put it in the interface of this on the transmission as well, and prep all our bolts and get that stuff ready with like anti-seize and all of that. Let the greasy fun begin. I'm trying to like inject it in as much as I can. Wipe that all in real good and push it down, because when we get in there, it's easy to make a mess with it. But if you get it in there, if you get your grease deep into your axle pretty good, maybe it'll be a little less messy on the inside. We'll see. Also, these come with a gasket, so don't forget to put the gasket in. I found it's easiest to get the axle in and situated, and then you can slide the gasket around this end. I might try it a little different this time and put the gasket in first. All right, let's get messy. Reverse of the removal process. So we're gonna go ahead and stick this in. We're gonna get this end in at an angle over there so that way we can position the splined end back into the hub. So I know it's pretty hard to see what I'm doing, but I'm basically guiding this inside out of the way so that I can get, there we go, get the spline in place. Oh, come on, spline. And then you just finagle the spline. You gotta kind of bend it, get where you want it. There we go. Then it goes in. Now we're just gonna check our gasket back here. All right, so you can see back here, it slipped into the spline spot, and then over here, we've got our gasket. I'll just try to position the gasket here so that it looks nice. The grease is all holding it in place. You see the big blob here, and this part of the axle is pushed back this way a little bit, but we're gonna push it back that way. I'm gonna go tighten the spline, or just put the bolt in here on this end. Just on tight enough for now. All right, so just move this up and into place here. Installation reverse of disassembly. Don't forget to reuse your washers. And I got these all on threaded finger tight, and now I'm just finishing up with the drill gently. At least I thought I was. Now we're gonna go jump underneath, and we're gonna torque those to 40 foot-pounds. Then we'll be able to drop this back down on the wheel and torque the axle bolt to 145 foot-pounds plus 180 degrees. Torque to yield, so let's get into it. So just take your time down here. Make sure your socket is getting all the way in, or rather your Allen is all the way into the socket of the bolt so that you don't strip it. And then there we go. That's 40 Newton, or 40 foot-pounds rather. Make sure you go all the way around the bolts twice, just to make sure that you got it right, because it's kind of a crucial piece. So now we can get the wheel back on here, drop this thing down, and torque the axle bolt. gonna go with 145 Newton meter. All right, this is the breaker bar part for 180, so I'm gonna do 2 90s. And make sure that you're super snug on your bolt and everything is nice and straight. You do not want to strip this. Here we go. And that's 190. So it has 90 degrees. There we go. And that is it. Torqued and ready for action. Sweet. So friends, thanks for joining me on this axle adventure. I think I'm almost done with all the maintenance for this car to make it a good solid running car. Still yet to give it a full review, but that is coming. So you all know the deal. Keep your cars registered, have some insurance when you're driving, use your signals. Don't forget to tell your friends you love them, and we'll catch you on the next one.